rom-coms, they're not usually the genre of choice. It takes a lot to really...
Why? How could you do this to him?
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Brand new romantic comedy starring Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson. Don't do it. Wow, I did it. I want to say thank you to the studio for providing an early screening. We're going to talk about it spoiler-free. Is this one worth watching on Valentine's Day? So music superstars Kat Valdez, played by Jennifer Lopez, and Bastian are getting married before a global audience of fans. But when Kat learns seconds before her vows that Bastian has been unfaithful, she decides to marry Charlie, played by Owen Wilson, a stranger in the crowd instead. So I say this is your classic throwback romantic comedy, and you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, Jennifer Lopez is in it. I mean, how could it not be? She was like the it factor for a great rom-com back in the day. She's one of my mother's favorite rom-com actors. So to see her back in that genre was really nice, as well as Owen Wilson, who, will do projects like this occasionally, but to see him play a different type of leading role, still likable, still a bit of charisma, although much more subtle in this film because he is, and that's something he believes his daughter sees in him. He's a nobody, right? So when he makes this decision to say yes to her marry me request, even though he's the one holding the sign, he looks at his daughter for a second and says, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do something different. I have to be what I believe she believes she wants me to be. See where that's confusing. And thus we have our standard and somewhat conventional romantic comedy, and that's just talking about the cliches we find ourselves hitting. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing with this genre. It all really comes down to the writing and how compelling the chemistry is between the two actors. And that's where I want to start with, I believe, the highlight of the movie, the fact that they are very good together. Lopez and Wilson have chemistry on screen. It's subtle. It's not something that's going to make you write home about and say, yeah, this is the most steamy, this is Ryan Gosling kind of relationship here that I'm feeling and I'm really getting. No, it's subtle and simplistic in this, and I use this word, cute kind of way. You're watching this, you're like, oh, I kind of feel that. And at first, it doesn't really start as a romance. It has to slowly grow into something like that. No spoilers. But at the start, it's basically a publicity stunt. It's something that she does on a whim. He's just kind of there along for the ride saying, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. But he understands, right? The conflict doesn't come from the event that happens at the beginning. He understands, I'm here because I'm here. This happened, and you know what? Let's see what happens with it. When it starts to become genuinely sweet and cute is when she begins to get more into his personal life, because her personal life, it's all over the place. On social media, she's constantly being filmed. There's someone following her around with a camera the entire movie, so he knows what she's all about. But she doesn't know what he's all about. She doesn't know the relationship between he and his daughter. And a bond that starts to form between them comes more from his personal life. And I do like the idea of the roles somewhat being reversed in this movie. Now, the movie's glamorous. It literally starts with a big group of people underneath the bright lights, and that's how this event comes about. And, most of it is focused on her songs and her singing, and even though I understand a big part of this movie is pushing her as a singer, and we get some performances from her, and fans of hers, they're not going to care about this one bit. So if you're here for her, just know that this is much more of a criticism on the film than her music video type scenes, and there are a lot of them in this film, go on too long, and they somewhat take away from the momentum that the movie has. And it does start to feel like a movie that is built to display her music, as opposed to giving us a well-thought-out, cohesive, and well-written romantic comedy. Now, we get some moments, we get some scenes, and it has this early 2000s cute factor, right? Again, it's not a movie that you haven't seen before. We've seen it 1,000 times, even though they're somewhat reversing the roles. That's all fine and dandy. But when it starts to focus on the things that don't matter as much, that's when it was kind of pulling me away from the movie. I also think there are some unnecessary things about this movie. Certain characters, Sarah Silverman's character, it wasn't necessary to the plot. I understand he needs someone to be there with him, but her comedy did not really work for me, and there were some comedic missteps throughout the film that did kind of drag my enthusiasm down, even during the moments where I was going, it's a sweet moment between the two. It's silly, it's formulaic, but you know what? At the end of the day, this movie is built to do one thing, and that is have fans of this genre, fans of these actors, sitting back and going, it's a sweet premise. And without that sweetness and that, I keep using this word, cuteness that the movie gives, it wouldn't have worked. But because it has that charm that all good rom-coms need, I was actually happy while watching. I was feeling certain moments between the two, and even though the way it plays out is something you've seen 1,000 times, you don't care because you're so invested in that relationship. And there's a modern twist, a modern spin. We're dealing with social media and all of the things that come with today's success, so I really appreciated all of those factors, and I thought for the formulaic premise, they did as nice of a job as they could have. Before I give you guys my score, thanks so much for joining me. Let me know, what is your favorite Jennifer Lopez movie down below? And if you like this video, drop your thumbs up to support this channel. Jennifer Lopez is once again crushing the rom-com game in Marry Me, and Owen Wilson feels like the perfect complement. Their chemistry injects life into this formulaic and somewhat silly premise. It's an easy watch and will provide a nice experience for fans of the genre. I'm going a 64% with my score. It is a recommendation from me, especially for fans of the, well, maybe only for fans of the rom-com genre. Again, if you're not a fan, then you're not going to get anything new from this, but it's sweet, and the way it plays out is sweet, and there's a nice little message in there, which I truly appreciated. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know, what are you watching this weekend later today? My Death on the Nile movie review.